Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change and how important that is to our world. We apologize for the technical difficulties that happened last week for last week's show, although I don't think it was on us at all. It seems like all of Facebook had some sort of a meltdown when it came to podcasts, and that certainly included us. So at some point during the show, halfway through, we just weren't able to broadcast anymore. We did try a couple times, but it didn't work out. So we'll continue our interview with the Mad Hatter at some point in the future, maybe next week's show. We'll see about that. We've got a number of things on our plate as far as what we want to do, but we'll get back and finish that interview. On the show today, we got 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. We've got updates to do with the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Program. We certainly do. We'll talk a little bit about Halifax and London. I just want to put a note in here that there's a group in a very minor, a remote community of British Columbia that is starting up a cannabis substitution program. So kudos to them for starting that, and all the best in making that work there. We'll certainly be here for whatever support we can give those people. But nice to see that there are other initiatives to do with the cannabis substitution program. Meanwhile, we here in Vancouver are still facing charges for trying to solve the opioid crisis from a cannabis point of view for the last 5.5 years. We've been risking our persons and our properties and the rest of it to be here and do this. The people that have been involved in my team with the CSP have really sacrificed a lot to be here. You know, for the last 9 months, we've been 7 days a week. For the 2 years before that, we were 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. And that's a lot of exposure to the horrors of what's going on here in this war zone that is the downtown east side of Vancouver, driven by poverty issues, drug prohibition issues, all government policy issues that have resulted in this absolutely unacceptable situation of drug addiction, homelessness, poverty, and the streets are an absolute mess here around Main and Hastings, and for a few blocks up either side and out from there. It is really, really disheartening to see all this, and we're here trying to solve all of that. There was a public health emergency that was declared several years ago here with the result of a tainted drug supply, fentanyl in the street drugs, people dying at an alarming rate. And certainly we had information, myself and colleagues of mine, about how cannabis could help people get through withdrawal. And so we pitched that as an idea to the City Council, to Vandu, to the Vancouver Police Department back coming up 6 years ago right now. And it's resulted in quite the journey since then. But a journey that did not result in getting the proper supports from government, even though we demonstrated clearly over and over again for all of these years that what we're doing is both not harmful, but of extreme benefit to this community. In fact, we are definitely the best harm reduction option that's available with respect to the opioid crisis. We have proven that. The science is with us. There is really no doubt, unless you're the federal government, who never comes down here, for one thing, to have a look at what's going on, to see both the mess that this is and the solution that we've been offering here. And because they did not respond to us in a timely manner like they said they would, with licenses and exemptions in the meantime, we've suffered all sorts of different maladies, including being arrested and charged and still facing it before the courts. It was 2 years ago today that we moved into, 2 years ago tomorrow? It was the 2nd of November in any case. It was a Tuesday, but it was the 2nd of November that we had to leave the storefront that we had been occupying for 5.5 months and move into an RV. So we've now put in 2 full years out in the RV there, dealing with all sorts of different weather issues and societal issues. We've been broken into 6 times. We've had attacks on the van a few times. We've had the police raid and seize our stuff now twice, charges and the rest of it. All of this is only happening because the federal government is criminally delinquent in their responsibilities to recognize what is an effective harm reduction strategy during a public health care crisis, and to respond in time with whatever it takes to protect us and to allow us to do what we're doing. And they certainly have been derelict in doing any of that. All we've gotten from Health Canada over the last 2 years plus, it was September 16th, 2 years ago, we put in our applications, 2 of them, one for licenses to allow us to continue the work that we've been doing already by that time for 3.5 years, and the other for a temporary emergency exemption, so that we wouldn't suffer things like being arrested and charged, or having our products seized, or being robbed, or all the other things that have happened as a result of the federal government not properly responding to us. And that is really quite disgusting. There has been lots of different things that have happened over these years that should have prompted the federal government to do their job, but the corruption runs very deep. It runs right to the top, and we're talking about extremely huge dollars here. The government of Canada decided that they were going to be able to capitalize on people's appetite for cannabis through legalization, and that people would be willing to spend $10 a gram, even though it's not threat of jail or anything like that. And that just hasn't turned out to be the case. Although, having said that, the producers of the legal products in Canada, the cannabis products, have managed to glean over $43 billion out of the Canadian economy in selling their stuff to Canadians. But there's, according to those licensed producers, they're facing an emergency, a crisis situation where many of them are going to go belly up because there's just no way to make money within the tax framework that's happening to do with cannabis legalization. The federal government, they take $1 a gram right off the top. So if they were going to get away with selling cannabis at $10 a gram, that $1 represents about 10% of what the people are paying to get the taxes paid and to get their cannabis. But the truth of it is that because of the unregulated illegal market, which is actually the real market, the market that was here before the legal market, the one that's made up of all the people that got us to where we are now, the one that's made up of people who actually care about cannabis and are actually trying to help people get access in proper ways, not those huge licensed producers who are only interested in capital gains and profits, and they're having a real hard time, because the real average price of cannabis in Canada is more like about $4 a gram. We're way less than that here because that's what's necessary and that's what can be accomplished. And at $4 a gram, that $10 that the federal government is taking right off the top represents 25% of the tax that's on of the cost of that product. And that's just outrageous. In fact, with respect to taxation in cannabis, I've mentioned before on the show here, in my opinion, there is no need for taxation. In fact, it should be supplemented and supported and encouraged. If you're going to tax something, there needs to be a reason for those taxes. There needs to be something going on that is costing the government money that they need to cover the cost of, and that's why they would put taxes on something. In the case of cannabis, there is no harms to society, no costs that need to be incurred or need to be covered. In fact, it's a net benefit on all kinds of different levels, both to the health of Canadians and to the pocketbooks of Canada as well. Cannabis is an amazing commodity that offsets the use of things like alcohol, commercial tobacco, pharmaceutical, problematic drugs, other things like that, so that there is a definite net financial benefit to Canada in having cannabis available to people. For them to take tax on that only discourages people from using cannabis and probably continues their use of these other really problematic and costly substances. The cost of commercial tobacco intake and the harms that are caused by that are huge in Canada. Number one reason why people are admitted into hospital in Canada is to do with commercial tobacco smoke. And the cost to society from alcohol is well documented. Not that alcohol is a completely bad thing, shouldn't be banned. I think it's great for people that use it responsibly, to have a great time with it, that use it to enhance their lives in positive ways. That's all great. But we've learned through alcohol in our society about the downfalls, about the people that can't handle it, about the violence that it induces in many people, and about what happens with respect to policing costs because of crime and alcohol-related violence and all the rest of that, and the cost to families because of the domestic violence that happens, and the loss of work hours and all the rest of that. Alcohol is a very costly substance in our society, and it should be taxed accordingly to cover those costs. Commercial tobacco should be taxed because of how much it costs our society and how much it costs individuals with their poor health and the rest of it. Those things require taxes. Cannabis does not. Cannabis, as I said, makes people use less of those things. It's a cost benefit to Canada. It should be supplemented and encouraged. But here we are with the corrupt government that did not want to properly legalize this substance that they were so wrong in criminalizing for all these years. We've yet to hear an apology about that. So now all of a sudden cannabis is legal. Whatever happened to it being so dangerous? Whatever happened to, oh my God, the young people? Whatever happened to all those horror stories that were being told about what would happen if we had legalization? I remember the prohibitionists saying that we'd have people driving on the sidewalks, wiping people out because they're all stoned out of their minds on cannabis, and all those horror lies is what they are. They're not horror stories, they're horror lies. None of that happened at all. In fact, cannabis has been a rather smooth, input into, or has a smooth entry into normal society now. It's quite well accepted, although there's still a lot of stigma involved, and the cost is still way too high. And the people that want to use it all the time or need to use it all the time, well, they're kind of out of luck unless they're, independently wealthy, and then they're going to spend a lot of money on just purchasing cannabis for no good reason. And so now we've got court rulings coming down. We've got the Warneke, Seaman, and Martin case that has recently been concluded with respect to their constitutional challenge. And the courts decided that there's aspects of the ACMPR that need to be struck down. In fact, they have struck them down. They are no longer of any force and effect. That they can't put limits on the potency of the edibles and the oils. That's unconstitutional. It's arbitrary. There's no good reason for that. Hell, you can buy 40 ounces of whiskey easy, no problem at all, and way more toxic things than that if I started to make a list. But for them to be restricting the potency of high-dose edibles it was absolutely ludicrous, unjustified, and really did hurt a lot of people, because the people that are really interested in those high-dose edibles are not so much the partiers that want to just take it on a Friday or Saturday night and have a great time at the party. They're people that really need it because it's helping them with their serious medical problems and all the rest of that. And in fact, the people we're dealing with, they really need it to be able to get off of the hard drugs that they're on. And low-dose edibles does not do it for people that are involved in the use of opioids and hard drugs. You can just imagine that they need a much more potent solution to that. And the high-dose edibles is that solution, but so far not allowed by governments, although you can make your own from the plants that you're allowed to grow depending on the province that you're in. I mean, this is all just a ludicrous mess that's going on here. So there's also the aspect of the ACMPR that was struck down because of the constitutional challenge with respect to access. That forcing medical patients to access online is just against our constitutional rights. It's against our charter rights. It's against our freedom. My goodness, to not be able to have a storefront like everybody else to go get whatever else you want. That people that use cannabis are the one group that just doesn't get a storefront, even though there's a myriad of products out there available, from topicals to edibles to concentrates and flowers. And there's a huge, huge body of cannabis products that should be available in storefronts for just regular old Canadians to walk into and see what they want and get some decent advice and all the rest of that. And yet our corrupt government has decided that their legalization does not include that kind of dignity for people that want to use cannabis, especially for medical purposes. And that's our fight here as well. So we applied to the government over 2 years ago to give us licenses to continue what we had been doing by that time for 3.5 years. And what we had been doing is providing cannabis high-dose edibles to get people through withdrawal, to get them off those opiates, and to improve their overall quality of life. And we had been doing that really successfully. No problems, no victims, nothing at all. Nobody in any way has been harmed other than perhaps eating too much cannabis, which is an uncomfortable experience for the several hours, maybe even up to a day or two. But then you're fine after that. There's no long-term health issues, and you just know that at that point where your limits are, and you reduce the amount that you take. You start low and you go slow, and that's the advice that everybody needs to get. And if the government had a role to play in any of this, it would be to make sure that that is on the labels of high-dose edibles, is that people should start low and go slow. And that's all they need to do. They don't need to charge a bunch of money. They don't need to have a bunch of inspectors. They don't need to have taxes to cover anything. All they need to do is a requirement as a retailer. If you're selling edibles, that you should put a little warning on there about the need to start low and go slow. That's all. But the government, they want to protect other things. They're not interested in this. So they've charged us now. And all we're doing is providing cannabis as an option at a low cost and at no cost. And they've charged us. Like as if we've done some damage somewhere to somebody. And now I'm told today that the Crown's position, the fucking Crown, sorry Eddie Barbie, but Jesus, man, the Crown, the King, he's behind all of this stuff. The Crown has decided that it's appropriate that myself and my 2 colleagues that are charged here, that we do 6 months of incarceration and that we cease and desist what we're doing here. In other words, the king, the crown, those representatives that are supposed to be public servants, but really they don't work for the public at all, they think it's okay, despite what doctors have to say in letters supporting us, that if we stop doing what we're doing, people will die. We have that in black and white by healthcare professionals, the best in the industry, the leaders in understanding cannabinoid replacement therapeutics. They've written us letters stating that if we stop doing what we're doing, people will die. Professor Zachary Walsh said in his letter that we need to have no obstacles placed in front of us, that we need to be encouraged in what we're doing. We need to be allowed to expand what we're doing. Yet Health Canada, or the Crown, in that piece of crap's wisdom, has decided it's okay to let hundreds of people go back into the poison drug supply and take away their access point here of low barrier cannabis. That's okay, because we really need to punish these people who had dared to just try to provide that without a license, because it was a healthcare emergency after all. You're going to wait for some federal government to give you a license to save somebody's life? Well, hang on a minute, sir. I'm not able to quite help you yet because I got to get this piece of paper with a signature from the federal government. Yeah, I know they're 3,000 miles away and they don't care, but just give us a little bit of time. I'll save your life eventually. Oh, you're dead already? Yeah. That's what we're dealing with. We're supposed to stop saving people's lives, and they're right there in the palm of our hands being saved, and we're supposed to walk away from that. These people are just incredible criminals. They're evil as can be. They're going to punish us for what we've been doing here? And they think we should stop? Well, I instructed my lawyer to go on the attack. We'll take with us these recent court rulings. We'll take with us all this huge body of evidence that we've collected here, all of these witnesses and testimonials from people that we've been helping. And I'll go to court against those people and we'll kick their butts in court. We'll make them look so bad because they are. And we'll see what the courts have to say. We'll see if we have any justice in this world, if the courts are actually going to, side on the side of reason and what's right, or if they're going to go with what's wrong and unreasonable because they're going to protect the bottom line profits of some rich people. Is that where we are in Canada? Is that what we've become here as a country? This is such a ridiculous point in time of exposing exactly what it is that our government is concerned about and what it is that they're prepared to do something about. They are not concerned about the opioid crisis. They are not prepared to support what is the best option for solving that, because they are concerned about the profits of the legal industry, and that's disgusting. 4:19, probably good timing at this point. A few more things to talk about, but roll a joint if you don't have one already rolled. I'll wrap it up in the next minute or so. Tomorrow, in Vancouver, at 9:30 a.m., 222 Main Street, Courtroom 101. We'll be gathered out front at 9 o'clock again to have a little session of imbibing the magical vapors of the sacred herb, to put things into perspective, to do a little blurb about how what this is all about is not us being on trial, but the federal government being on trial. And what are they going to do? I always suspect they're going to withdraw the charges. That's what I thought my lawyer, Jack, was going to tell me today. But instead he's telling me that no, they've decided that we have to stop and they want 6 months and I should agree with that. I will certainly not agree with that. I will take them to the courts and we'll see what a judge has to say. And if a judge says that we're wrong, then I'll be so ashamed of our justice system and our country, because I am not clouded or unsure in any way at all about what's right and wrong here. There is no question. We are doing the right thing. And we've tried to do it the right way right from the start. And it would be very wrong of our public servants to decide that the bottom line profits of a bunch of licensed stores and producers are more important than the lives of our brothers and sisters that are suffering with addiction, mostly through no fault of their own. So we'll see how it all goes. I hope that I see a whole bunch of people there tomorrow. It's nice when we have a bunch of people. We have all these other appearances that we've had, even though they're just putting off the different dates, and that tomorrow will be no different. I've been told to prepare for having a trial date set tomorrow, and and that's fine if that's the route they want to go. We put out a press release today. We'll be letting the media in on what's going on here. The whole world is watching, and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, it's 4:21. Glenn Wells, as always, is here today. In fact, now he's here not only as my 420 session guest, he's also helping to produce the show.
Your production assistant.
My production assistant. I think you're the production manager.
Okay.
Yeah. You're managing to produce this thing, so, you know. Neil bailed on us.
Well, he went to, he's making himself smarter.
He thinks the pursuit of knowledge and education and that kind of thing is more important.
I think I got to do a little more return here. There we go.
Listen, Neil, good on you.
Yeah.
I got a little remote or something.
I don't know if he left yet. He did leave.
Yeah, he did leave. He got himself onto a plane and he's headed to India.
He's in there. Wow.
Oh, and it was like 40-hour flight.
I saw a little green dot on the weekend on his thing, so I was like, has he left yet?
What are we smoking here today? What am I smoking?
Oh, some magical stuff.
Magical.
Yeah, some unicorn poop.
Oh, unicorns.
Unicorn poop today I brought you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that from anybody in particular?
The unicorn poop grower? Collector? I don't know.
I'm just trying to give a plug wherever.
Yeah, no. They're just a local person. Yeah.
Nice. And how did you make out with your plants that you were growing
they're,
from New Zealand?
They're almost ready.
Nice. You're going to bring some and show us when you got that?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll probably take them down tomorrow. Well, they're already down. They've been in the shed for a couple of weeks. So we'll dry them out and see how it works.
Nice. Probably works like most other collections of cannabinoids.
Hopefully. Also, we're doing tubes and dubs again this year?
Well, I imagine we will.
Good, because I bought 80 packs of socks already arranged. We got 20% off, which is actually 320 pairs because there's 4 per pack.
Nice.
So we have 320 pairs of socks to give out for Christmas this year. Now he's going to make the $1,700 back, which we'll do with a GoFundMe. So,
all right, well, very cool.
I looked at the calendar. It looks like December the 20th is a Tuesday. It's a good day 5 days before that. So I'll run that for probably about November. Maybe the second week of November we'll start and start running that though. Okay, but I've already worked.
I bought a bunch of umbrellas today.
Cabela's and other stuff.
Because I want to Cabela's umbrellas. No, they're not.
No.
But I bought a bunch of umbrellas because we traditionally have handed out umbrellas when the rainy season happens here with the CSP. I think it's a valuable expenditure of that
CSP
money.
On them.
Yeah, we could do that. Get a little stencil. We could do that. We could make a stencil.
Maybe and spray it on.
And spray it on there.
Yeah. Maybe John would have something that would be good for that.
Cool, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. We call you a great idea, Glenn.
Sometimes I have some good ideas. Put the CSP on it so that they would see it all the time, right?
Yeah, it's a great idea. To get the name out there is a good idea. It's really good to educate people.
People ask what is the CSP, and then people can educate other people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. I should have thought of that before.
Well, I know that you can't use heat to put it on, but a stencil would be.
Yeah, you spray paint and a stencil. I'm going to use some sort of a fluorescent paint.
Yeah, or like an enamel paint or something that will run in the rain or something.
I think the green fluorescent spray paint that they use on job sites pretty much would do the job.
Oh, yeah. Or, like I said, probably John will know something that will work really well for umbrellas, yes.
John Murray is a good asset. He's a fart smeller, too.
He's a fart smeller. Good afternoon, Douglas. He's doing good.
Hey, Doug.
Good afternoon.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that.
How was Halloween for you?
Good. Isabel got about one of those recyclable, reusable bags. Not recyclable, reusable bags.
Right.
Half of that full, so... Yeah.
I made it through.
You did, yeah.
It's tough,
and you're still not wearing it,
It's tough for us now ex-sugar addicts, Although maybe once an addict, always an addict. But I did get myself going there a little bit yesterday when I was thinking about the past, where I would,
everything's in moderation. You don't have to cut it out. You just have to not
but the thing is once you've exceeded the moderation to too much excess, then you don't even get to do moderation anymore.
Oh no, you feel
That's
bad.
how I feel about it. And it's funny because I've been at war with my stomach for most of my life. My taste buds have won most of my life. I'm a immediate satisfaction sort of person. I think about maybe there's some long-term consequences of eating this piece of cake here that's about this big. But it sure looks good. I know it tastes good. I'm going to have just a little bite and then it's all gone. And then next morning my stomach's all upset. And so I'm sure I've had my stomach in shock for my whole life. And I was really becoming aware of just the influence of my stomach on my being when it's not happy.
Yeah.
And so it was flexing its vagus muscle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the vagus nerve there. I think it's more like the vagus nerve is more like a vagus muscle. And I would eat the wrong foods, and it would give me headaches, and I wouldn't feel I had no energy, and the rest of it. So I kind of made the decision. I'm done with these headaches. I've got to stop this. I'm old now, and I can't. I don't want the rest of my life to be lived in ill health.
Yeah.
So I made the switch. First I cut out chocolate, and then I realized, well, this other candy stuff, because chocolate had caffeine, so I was attributing that to the headaches.
Yes.
And then I thought, well, this other sugar isn't good for me either.
No.
And so now it's the same as it was before. I will look at something that looks really attractive sweet-wise, and I'll salivate, and my taste buds will go, yeah. And my stomach is like, no. And now I let my stomach win.
You do, right?
I do. Every time I let my stomach win, I'm letting my stomach make all the decisions when I'm looking at food. Do you or don't you want that in there? I can tell. I think about it. I go, okay, I get it. Not putting that in there.
See, me, I'll look at that coffee crisp bar, and I'll look at that little pack of Smarties that you get at Halloween, and I'll go for a little pack of Smarties because I know that chocolate bar is just too much for me, right? So
Halloween is such a sugar addict's dream day.
It was, yeah. It's not. It doesn't seem. Well, you said it was pretty busy here in Vancouver, but we're really in Mission.
Lots of people were out last night.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to when I was taking my kids out trick or treating, and when I was trick or treating myself, you get this great big bag full of all these great candies and things some of you never thought of before, and lots of them you already have a relationship with, and you love them to death. And when I had it for myself, I'd end up at the end, and I was a determined trick-or-treater, I'd stay out late, I'd hit the other part of the neighborhood, and I'd have the big bag, and my dad would already have 2 bags each day, and I got the third pillowcase going on there, and then get home and spread it all out.
I remember doing that on the floor, and spreading it all out, and the parents would have to go through
and then my kids, take them out trick-or-treating. As soon as they've gone to bed, I got their bags on the floor there, I'm looking at all that stuff, I'm taking out the ones that I want.
We were done by 8:30, and then we did fireworks.
Stealing from my kids, that's what kind of an addict I was.
I told them it's dad tax.
Dad tax.
No stealing, right? Because stealing's not good. We don't want to promote stealing, so it's a dad tax.
I'm just looking back on it.
I
was stealing from my kids.
So you can get all this candy. I gotta get some of this candy too.
It makes sense. I should have thought of it. Like I said, good idea, Glenn. I can start calling you that.
Yeah.
Probably better than 8 out of 10. Maybe 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 of your ideas are good, probably.
If you went out with your brother and sister, they would probably take half your candy.
No, my brothers are both younger.
They were younger.
So I got some of theirs.
Yeah.
And the joys of being an older brother.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those younger kids.
Sorry, Sam.
Yeah. See, now we don't have to worry. Just pay the
Sam in particular didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have liked it to my dad if I'd have known that my dad was going through my candy bag, at the end of the night. He probably did.
Brutus says all dads take the candy.
Just to save the kids from diabetes.
Yeah, and it makes it easier on when we have to pay the dental bills and stuff like that, right?
It is such a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Because of dental bills, and because of diabetes, and because of obesity, and brain fog, and all these things that sugar induces in people, especially kids. And here we are as a society encouraging the use and consumption by kids of this really toxic, dangerous drug.
It is.
That's cost us so much if you look back on the history of those maladies I talked about there. I mean, holy shit. And so we allow for a day where the government sanctions is okay. The government plays the game too. You go to government offices, they're going to give you some of that candy as well. They got some there for your kids, What's wrong with the government not doing its due diligence, understanding the statistics, and recognizing that this is a serious problem in our world? We should not be encouraging the use of candy and the eating of candy by our young people whose bodies are developing the way that they are. Wow, have we ever got this wrong? So wrong. And that we encourage a day, our governments encourage and allow for a day. Like all year long you can buy this stuff. They market it directly at kids. Look at the labeling, look at the commercials. I mean, oh my God, sugar is beautiful. It's pretty, it's got nice colors, it sparkles. All those things are all represented there for sugar. So we allow one day a year to really do it.
Yeah.
Like really do it.
Yeah.
Like In fact, these addicted children that, you know, what would they do without their sugar fix?
You know what I did with
what
I did with Isabel is I went through her bag and picked out all the wrappers that she had eaten already.
Right.
I put them on the counter there this morning, and she saw this big pile of wrappers. I said, "That's too much."
Yeah.
Right? And then she looked at it because to her she was only opening up one or two.
I never thought of it as a kid.
But when I showed her how many wrappers that she had eaten, she was like, "Okay, I understand." Right? I said, "Not good for your system." Right? So.
The government should really be taking that one day a year, stop the disruption or distribution of candy for one day a year. Let's not have any candy given out to the kids, and let's spend that day educating the kids about what it is that happens if you eat too much of that stuff.
And then we used to do UNICEF. UNICEF was a good thing for Halloween.
There's some good things out there.
Kids, right?
Some people put in healthy foods. I got, you know, that's all good too. Here's this day where your kids get to dress up in as scary a costume as they can. The whole idea is to scare people.
Yeah.
And what could be scarier than a kid that looks like some sort of a goblin? A whole gang of them.
Yes.
So they get together with their friends, and a whole gang of scary-looking marauders goes door to door threatening the neighbors. Threatening them. Trick or treat, man. You don't want to give us our treat, we're going to do a trick on you, and the trick's going to be we're going to light your pumpkin on fire and maybe burn your house down. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. We could TP your house. Yeah. We could do lots of things. And those threats, this is what the game is. I mean, it's just a game. It's not real. Nobody does that. Yeah, some people do that.
Some people do it.
Some people did that. Some people do that.
Yeah.
You know, the threats are real. So the gang of kids go and threaten the neighbors. Either you give me my fix or I'm going to do damage to your house. You understand? I'm sending the boys in if you don't. This is a game we allow our children to play and win?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And they're not winning, really. But
I think it's dying out a bit. I really do. I just didn't see as many people.
I'm sure it's morphing and evolving, and I'm sure some responsible parents are not letting their children take part in the consumption of refined white sugar, you know, as the theme. I'm sure there's lots of that good kind of stuff, but the sugar manufacturers and sellers are going to be continuing to promote Halloween. The stores are going to continue to promote big sections to having all of this candy that'll disappear over the course of a week leading up to it.
Yeah.
It's not a good holiday, man. It's not a good event. Fireworks last night. Did you hear all? I don't know. You were in Wishin.
We did fireworks.
They're just constant. You know, throughout the night last night.
Oh wow.
So much pollution. So much. You know, violence. I mean, explosions are violence.
You don't know if they're gunshots or fireworks.
Exactly. And in this neighborhood, it's really triggering. It's triggering for animals. It's triggering for little kids who don't understand.
Yeah.
It's just, what are we doing?
There are animals that aren't triggered by it either, too. You know, so there's the yin and yang of everything.
Right. So you get a percentage of a large population of creatures that are triggered and a percentage that aren't triggered. What are you going to do? Trigger the ones that get triggered just because those other ones don't?
We still do the fireworks even though the humans that get triggered by it, right?
I don't think we should be. I don't think we should be lighting $1 million worth of fireworks, you know, up into the skies. And you've seen the cloud, the thick pollution that results from that. All that stuff falling down into the oceans. It kills lots of birds. I'm sure it kills lots of fish. And you know,
but I don't think smoke sinks. Smoke rises.
But the elements within those fireworks is falling to the ground. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming down.
You mean like the
big fog sits up there, the smoke.
Yeah.
But there's elements within those fireworks.
Yeah.
There's metals and things like that, and they come down. And I'm sure it's not good for the oceans and the fish, and I'm sure that the birds in the neighborhood get traumatized if not killed. You know, I'm such a spoil sport. You know, party pooper Neil.
If that was happening, then they would be probably canceling it. We wouldn't be having 30 years of fireworks here in Vancouver.
They need to do laser works. They need to put a lot less money into people that would just produce all these amazing laser art shows.
Yes, but the thing about fireworks is the color and the bang.
I know.
They're
great. Don't get me wrong.
Bang with the laser. You get the color, you might get better shapes and more clear defining.
So the term is unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences. 3 nights out of 365 days.
No. It's going on all around the world. Almost every night, somewhere is having a fireworks display.
Yes.
And there's lots of private fireworks displays for people in companies that are celebrating different things.
Yes.
There's a lot of fireworks going off in the world. I'm a guy who believes in having as much fun as you can.
I like them.
I love beautiful things. I love neat things. I just don't like when there's unintended consequences that does serious harm.
Yeah.
And I think that we really need to rethink a little bit about the... yeah, like that.
Unintended
Designed to save your life.
Yeah.
And that's what the intention was.
Yeah.
But there can be unintended consequences.
When I went to buy fireworks, she asked if she could have a picture of what my hand looked like after it got off. I said, sure. She says, this is for other parents who are buying these things for their kids.
Yeah, but fireworks didn't do that to you.
It was a bear banger.
I know.
Yes.
But it wasn't like you were. It wasn't like so many other people every year that go out into their backyard or parks and light off some fireworks, and then the one doesn't go off, and they go there to check it, and it blows up in their face and blows up in their hands. It happens every year.
Yeah.
Every year. So why?
But they do sell bear bangers as fireworks on Halloween. Like, my landlord bought 10 of them. Right? I said, oh, those are the things that did this. Really? Yeah. Yeah. They're very loud. So that's the whole thing, is that they're very loud, right?
So
you have
I don't know what I'm in favor of or not in favor of with respect to those sorts of things. Should adults be able to operate those explosives, on a celebration day?
If you're
probably,
if you're trained, you get some training, yeah.
Yeah, if it was regulated properly, so that people had to have a little bit of an orientation course ahead of time. If the warnings were properly laid out and really like you couldn't miss them, and people were educated, then sure. But I'm really not a big fan of government interference in most of this stuff. CSA standards have proven to be life-saving and prevented a lot of injuries. Children's toys, workplace, equipment.
You could even do a thing, like a 1-hour thing online, some safety about fireworks. Do the course. You get a little email that says that you've done it, you're certified, and go and have some fun, right? Yeah. Just do some safety, right?
I'm not against these things. No. I'm just in favor of proper regulations on these things, because when the unintended consequences are displaying that there's statistically a whole bunch of problems that happen with this behavior, then you need to have regulations that address that. It's almost always education, almost always. The people that are handling what they're handling are properly educated, and you get a lot less of those things. There's other things that they could do.
Like we went in the middle
maybe reduce the potency of the fireworks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, they're not as...
I mean, here we got a government that thinks that cannabis is so dangerous, that you shouldn't be able to go and buy some in a store. But you've got stores where you can go buy fireworks.
Yeah.
Cannabis never blew anybody's fingers off.
No.
I mean, people these days are probably getting the odd little burn from dabbing.
Yeah, or from the road speed.
And we used to from the hot nights a little bit, minor details, you learn how not to have that happen to you. I mean, if a little bit of education ahead of time would help, then so be it. But for a government to decide that they're going to just completely ban that option, you can't walk into a store, you cannot buy those high-dose edibles, that is just ludicrous and ridiculous in a world where you can buy firearms and fireworks and on the list goes. We do things every week on this show. It makes no sense. It's not logical. It's not reasonable. I don't like things that are unreasonable. But it's worse than that.
Yeah.
Because it's making money.
Yeah.
And when that's called willful blindness.
Yeah.
That's what that's called.
Okay.
Our government is involved in criminal willful blindness when they're not addressing the unintended consequences of their overregulation now, their prohibitions before, the gangs that will form to be able to distribute that which is prohibited and all that entails, the policing costs, the murders in the streets, the luring of young people into those sorts of lifestyles. All of this stuff is an unintended consequence of trying to prohibit or overregulate and restrict anything.
Yeah.
But in the case of cannabis, you've got all of that going on. You've got cannabis being removed as an option from the society. So the other options are alcohol, promoted by the government, pharmaceutical drugs, where there's drugstores, all over. Every city's got drugstores. I mean, I thought drugs were bad, aren't they? Got drugstores, and trust me, the drugs in those stores are way more potentially harmful than any of this stuff here is.
I was also, why does the jar say ice?
Well, because we had a strain called ice, and these are the jars that These were the jars that we had in our store.
But people used to store jar ice in here too in the old days.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with that. This was from a strain of weed that we had called ice.
Okay.
And actually, the weed that was in there for the longest time was that strain.
Oh, okay.
But just today, I put something else in there. I don't even know what it is. I just grabbed something out of the thing. It looked real good.
Yeah, I'm wondering why that is an ice. You know, being that's
I'm not promoting the ice strain. In fact,
term for meth is ice.
I hadn't even thought of it till you mentioned it. I turned that around there.
Yeah, put a little cannabis leaf on the other side or something.
I had somebody come by the RV that has offered to paint a big pot leaf on the side over here in a water-soluble, easily removable paint.
Yeah.
And I said, well, somebody actually said, well, how about a little more permanent?
Yeah.
And she said, if you want it done, if you like what we did, we'll come back and do it permanent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
These are graffiti artists in the city that go out and do things like that.
That's cool.
But they're respectful.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to do it without asking me about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just awesome.
Yeah.
So you know what happened at the RV 2 days ago? It's the craziest thing, right? We're facing charges here of providing cannabis without a license. Everybody knows it. All the VPD knows this.
Yeah.
Everybody in the neighborhood knows who we are. We've been here for 2 years now in the RV.
Yeah.
A VPD officer came up to the window of the RV with a prisoner, someone in handcuffs, and the prisoner asked for a joint, and my person there asked the cop if it was okay, and the cop said, "Yep, that's why we're here."
Oh, wow.
And so gave him a joint, put it in his mouth, and lit it for him.
Yeah, 'cause it's
and
legal.
then he said that the prisoner dragged the cop over to the cement wall, the railing there, and they stood there, and he smoked his joint.
Wow.
Yeah,
cool.
we have the badge number of the officer.
That's good.
I'm not going to give it out.
No.
And I'm not going to get that gentleman in any type of trouble.
No,
but it certainly speaks to the situation here of just how ludicrous and ridiculous this is.
Yeah.
They're wasting taxpayer dollars on
prosecuting. What does that prisoner have to give up to get that
I don't know.
privilege or favor?
I didn't witness it. I was told that the cop made some comment about that he felt he was being very gracious.
He was.
This fellow.
He could lose his fucking job for that. But I guess not, because it's not legal. It's not illegal anymore. He was giving him a legal substance.
I guess.
Yeah.
Cops are pretty good about letting you. There it is. Letting you have a cigarette.
Yeah.
Because it calms people down, right?
Yeah,
if they're agitated and what have you, then the cops many times will allow them to have a cigarette, and a joint is even better, way better.
Yeah.
So that was really, really interesting to see.
Wow.
Yeah, we think it's nice.
Yeah.
There's some mixed emotion about it. It's like, what the hell? We're facing charges, and yet this cop can come and basically traffic. To this person, with us in the middle.
Yeah, just because it's a movement of marijuana, a seed. If I pass me a seed, that is trafficking. Okay, we're not saying like he's doing the trafficking thing like Scarface or whatever, but yes, that's the definition of trafficking in Canada.
Yeah.
The movement of cannabis. So from even when I pass a joint, that's trafficking, right? So
ridiculous. This has been so ridiculous for so long. When can we get to the other side of it?
Hopefully
is this the year we got? January's coming up to 100
maybe
years.
Maybe
of
that was
program.
karma sending you a message that, hey, how often are you going to come up with a prisoner and say, hey, can he get a joint? I'm going to light it for him too, right? Like, fuck. Yeah. I don't know. That's got to be something for something somewhere along the line.
I have the badge number of an officer that I spoke with a couple of weeks ago. I might have mentioned it on the previous show. That. Unfortunately,
Mary says you should have gave him a cookie as well.
Yeah,
100%.
Young woman died of an overdose just down the street. She was the common law wife of a troubled young man that we see on the streets all the time. I was so shocked that it was his companion, but died of an overdose.
Wow.
And so I went down there, and there's VPD there.
Yeah.
And so I was chatting with the one VPD, and I said, the RV, right? Yeah. And I said, this is our journey. This is what's happened. This is where we are with all of this. And he said, I support you 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've had other officers tell me to keep going. That we're doing the right thing. I had the deputy chief of the VPD commend me on my leadership, which means that, you know, continuing on in the face of government oppression, not getting a license and being told to stop doing this over different...
I wonder if you could have those people as character witnesses.
Would they do it, you know? Would they do it? And
you could do it through video now.
Yeah, everything's through video now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know what it's like to go to court these days, but it's a very surreal experience. It looks futuristic and wrong. It's wrong on several different levels. But your lawyer's not there.
Nope.
Your lawyer is sitting somewhere, sometimes close to the area. The Vancouver lawyers, in many cases, my lawyer was in Toronto and also in Vancouver, depending on which of the 5 appearances that you're referring to. But this is about me and 2 of my colleagues and what we've been doing here and what the government is now attempting to do to us. And yet in 5 appearances, I've never been able to say a word. The words that I said out of line and was scolded for doing so. And I'm supposed to just stand there silent while my lawyer on a TV screen and the prosecutor on a TV screen converse supposedly with a judge.
You'll get your time.
Wow.
You will get your time.
I mean, it's just surreal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't get to speak.
I'm sure John would probably say it's probably not a good idea, but...
Well, for me to speak or the whole thing?
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't asked Jack's take on that whole thing, but there's so many issues with respect to the conversations that are going on, the ability of the people to actually hear clear audio of what's being said lots of times. There was lots of instances while we were in the courtroom waiting for our turn where, you know, there was miscommunication. There, you know, you lose a lot when the person's not in the courtroom right there.
Yeah. So there's maybe another good idea. Maybe have Jack get hold past people because that judge said it was unconstitutional because people couldn't access it at a storefront level. Had to be through the mail.
Oh, Jack said that.
Yeah,
he's going to be using that
same thing, right? Yeah. You're allowing them to have it at their level, not even at a storefront, because you know they don't have the bank cards, credit cards, ID to go into a store. Right. So you may be covered by that part too.
Had a nasty debate online with one of my fellow activists over the years who was convinced that the right thing to do is to just conform to the doctor as a gatekeeper model and to deny now access to over 90% of the people that we've been serving for the last 5.5 years. Wow. That somehow it's okay for him to be locked into his little medical model where he gets to have a membership of people, that, you know, the lucky ones, that get to come and get cannabis through him. Yeah. But those that can't get a doctor or won't get a doctor, you know, too bad, so sad, see you later, you're not lucky, wow. You're not, you know, and he's okay with that. I don't understand how he can be okay with that. I hope by now you've had a good thought about that and realize how wrong that is. That this is not what we've been fighting for all along. Yes, we have used medical access dispensaries and that conformed with those restrictions to be able to exist at all, to be able to at least handle some of the people that can get those doctors on board with them. But it's never been right. It is not right. It should not continue. And I'm really, really surprised that we would have had this argument in the first place.
Well,
so anyway.
We're apparently going to have some more doctors now because they came up with a big deal for the doctors. They just got a really big raise.
Right.
So
now maybe those people that would or could find a doctor might be able to.
Yes. Yeah. So they were getting about $250,000 a year. Now they've been bumped up to $385,000 a year. So, and they never had their offices and staff covered. That the government's now going to cover that too for them. So, and the doctors are saying they actually listened and they actually did something that they were told them what they needed to do.
Well, so, they need the doctors, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
If the doctors are going to
they said there's
toe the line.
A million people without a doctor, family doctor right now in this province. This is supposed to help.
And I don't know what percentage of most communities that million people represent.
Yeah, well, there's only 3 million in the whole province.
But the percentage of people in this community that represents is very high.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't or won't get a doctor.
Yeah.
You know, and for good justification won't get a doctor.
You just bring a mobile thing down here that people just can walk up to it and see a doctor.
Right. And not to get permission to use weed.
But just get everything. Right? You get everything like that.
Get some actual government services.
Yeah.
You know, medical services.
Yeah.
Much needed down here. There's so many people that have lesions on their feet and their legs. They're in all kinds of distress.
Set it up like a mass shooter.
You know, and there's just not enough
tents,
for them.
Have people come in every Friday. There'll be a doctor there, right? And then you go and do that sort of thing. I don't know.
It's got to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way out of this is to help the people get a leg up and move on properly. The way out of this is not enforcement. You cannot enforce your way out of homelessness like this.
Yeah.
Can't lock up all those people. It wouldn't help anyway. It'd all be terrible. Got the new mayor now. We're going to see what he thinks he's going to do.
He starts this week, isn't he, on Friday? Yeah.
On the 11th.
Fourth.
The 11th is Remembrance Day.
Yes.
You know, that day when we remember something. You remember what it is we're supposed to remember? Lest we forget.
Yeah.
Lest we forget. There's another tagline there that the Legion actually wants to dissociate themselves from and say that it really wasn't ever part of the lest we forget. But I remember very well growing up that it was lest we forget that they died for our freedom.
Yeah.
And I think that's an extremely important caveat or qualifier of what it is that we're supposed to not forget.
Yeah.
People went and put their life on the line for our freedom.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
That's what they say nowadays.
Well,
right?
sure.
Yeah. So.
And thank you for risking your life for us, I guess, you know, and I'm sure that's what most of it is.
My great uncle was second in command of the Canadian forces during World War II. So he was like right up there.
Right.
Yeah, second in command.
Right on the front lines and
World War II, man.
You know, willing to die for what? For you.
Yeah. For our future.
For the future generations.
That nobody knew, right?
But for people you don't even know that haven't even been born in many cases yet.
Yeah.
But you think, you know, I believe as a soldier, I give these men the benefit of the doubt that they were there with proper ideals, you know, that they believed that they had to go and fend off an enemy that was threatening their family's future and the future of our country. I don't think the men at the top thought that's what was going on.
No, war is used in a bad way, like Russia and Congo.
Property acquisition merger.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call it. But so, you know, with these people, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around that, right? Like, I understand how you can emotionally get, you know, caught up in a situation, and if you're sold that bill of goods and you believe that, you know, you need to go and strap a gun to yourself and start shooting at those other people that are going to kill you if you don't, and they're coming after your family and your future and all the rest of it.
Some people really have that mentality.
You know, when that happens, and then you get out there to do that, I mean, oh my goodness, I don't know the truth of any of this stuff, really. I doubt that any of us can really know the whole truths about most of these things. There's so many truths involved in all of these things. Everything of any sort of power has way more than one side to it, and the things that we can never know and understand. We try to piece all this stuff together, you know. And that concept of people, you know, going to die, realizing that there's a good chance they're not coming home, that they're walking right into the face of people pointing guns with bullets and dropping bombs and you know, all the rest of it.
Shrapnel, grenade.
And that would be the best of it if they got, you know, killed by something like that, because the worst of it is they could probably get kidnapped and tortured and you know, and all the rest of that. And, you know, there are all those horrible things that happen when you're a young man and you're going off to war to protect your family and your country. You know what you're risking. I'm sure you think about it on the plane ride over there, and you realize, you know, what it is that you're walking into. So that these people were willing to die for our freedom. And I think it's a bit repulsive that the Legion doesn't really latch onto that and let people know what it is that we must not forget. We must not forget that human beings went and put their life on the line so that we could be free of the type of tyranny that is seeping into our country and has for these last decades here.
So I think what they did this year is, if you put your copy on this app that they have, it tells you a story of a soldier. So they're trying to keep it going, I think, just by giving out stories instead of memories, I guess. Yeah.
Well, war is hell.
Yeah.
And you don't know, and you can't imagine it till you're in it.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, wow, how do you deal with it? So when that's happened, and this world had gone through 2 world wars within 20 years or 30 years, you know, it was like, hey, let's not do this again. Like, let's not forget, what the hell happened here and how bad this was, and we were all scared for our families, and many of us have lost family members and all the horrors of war. Let's not forget that this is what this is like, and let's not ever go back here again. And I think that, the reason that those young men would strap on those guns and head overseas or whatever it was, or behind wherever they are to fight, is because they believe in a fundamental value system of what it is to be free. And that we were fighting for freedom, that these are freedom fighters, that they all see themselves on both sides, I'm sure, even. They see themselves as freedom fighters.
And you don't even have the freedom right now to save these people's lives because the government stepped in your way.
And those guys went and laid their lives down on the line for me and the generations to come, only to get governments that are so corrupt that this is going on. I mean, this could not be more clear. It could not be more black and white. There's no debate. The science is all on our side. There's no debate. They know. John Conroy told me we're going to stop sending the science to Health Canada because, we've already sent them so much. There's so much in our application, and they know. So there's no point. That's not the issue. The issue is not whether or not cannabis can be effective in helping people get off of those hard drugs and help them replace the use of those drugs. That is not the issue. That's not what's at debate here. That's not what's holding us up. There's not a question about whether or not this is a helpful thing that we're doing. The question is only, will the government allow it and allow for us to provide, or people, to provide cannabis at prices that are lower than what the cartel has deemed to be the
level that they want it at.
And you know why they have to keep it so high? To cover all the taxes.
Yes.
That's
true,
It's not the producers of cannabis that are making large amounts of money. If they're a publicly traded company, then probably the ownership of those companies has done very, very well. As a lot of people jumped on board, wanted to get in on the whole thing. But the companies themselves are going under. They're not making money.
Nope.
They say they're in crisis. They just recently appealed to the federal government to crack down on that illegal industry. How disgusting is that? I mean, I get it from a business point of view. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if, if you were, say, an alcohol provider in a small town where a couple people within the town have gotten really good at making booze, and their booze was selling more than your booze, and you could just go to the government and say, well, crack down on these people, and maybe they can in the case of alcohol. But what other industry gets to have the government use taxpayer dollars to arm a whole army of enforcers to go out there and make sure that nobody threatens their bottom, nobody cuts their grass? Wow. And so here they are saying, well, gee whiz, we can't make money because the government wants all this tax before we ever make a penny, and it's just not a good business model. There's nobody getting rich here that's doing that. The mom and pop operations are going under. The big ones are taking them over. They're not doing well either. And they're all insisting that two things happen: that there be a suspension of increased taxes. In fact, there was comments about how the price of cannabis hasn't really gone up in the government stores. Because they can't justify it at the price they got right now. But they want to see the tax scheme reset to make it reasonable, because it's just not reasonable based on any other commodity that's out there for sale. The taxes that are on cannabis are just ludicrously, ridiculously higher than those for no good reason. And the second one is they want to spend more tax dollars on enforcement of somehow wiping out the underground marketplace. That worked really well for Mexico, didn't it? Didn't the governments there, buy like armies worth of equipment and tried to go after the cartels there?
They want to wipe it out. They just have to join it. They have to do exactly what that market is doing, so that we can get the exact same thing from them at convenience.
It shouldn't have been hard. It's not a matter of putting in place an industry that mimics identically what the industry already was. It's simply a matter of allowing that industry that already was and is to be legal.
Exactly.
To be no longer illegal. And, if there's problems that arise, and there likely would be with the high-dose edibles to some degree, make sure the government could say, all right, everybody that's involved in that, please just put that on your label.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People wouldn't be buying their high-dose edibles from any bakers that they didn't know. People are continuing, or will continue to buy high-dose edibles from bakers that they know.
No, exactly.
And trust.
Yeah.
And that'll go on no matter what the government does.
Yeah.
But for those people who don't know anybody, they want to walk into a store where there's proper labeling, there's standardized dosaging, and some information about what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people that are already hooked up, you know, part of the industry, they're fine. Leave them alone. They know what they're doing.
They want to be able to smell it too.
And
Yeah, you know.
Your high-dose edible?
Yeah, or whatever, yeah. I want to smell that brownie. That smells like. Or even your bud. You can even smell your bud, right?
Maybe I can show you
What?
what was going on. There's the Halloween market at Thornton Park.
Oh, you went there, right?
I did go there.
Yeah.
I sang Cannabis at 4:20 because they asked me to. But, so they had one of the vendors
Nice.
had these things going on. So
Let's see.
let's see if we can see that. We'll just give it a minute here and we'll pop that up there.
Yeah, maybe tilt it down a little bit.
It down.
Yeah, so we don't get the glare.
Because I don't think people can't see it.
No.
When
There
they
you go. See, yeah, tilting it down works.
okay, so we get the light off it. We'll go up there a little bit.
Now you did it
I
again.
did the
Yeah.
opposite there now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
well.
You had it earlier. Yeah.
We need a special effects person to be able to insert stuff in. So what you were supposed to be looking at there was a tray of really large strawberries
Yep.
that you can't see most of the strawberry, just a little green top and a little bit of red around it, because they've all been dipped in chocolate,
Yeah. Edible chocolate.
edible chocolate with cannabis in it. And then most of them, not all of them, maybe about 2/3 of them, have been now rolled in what is a crushed Oreo.
Ooh.
And then dyed green.
Miss Edible.
No.
Oh.
No, this
She would
was.
be something like that. Did something like that.
I don't have her card on me right now, but it's Crystal, the hobby baker.
Okay.
That's who it
She
is.
looks like she did a great job there.
Miss Edibles was there.
Yeah.
She's the one who was the main driving force behind getting those people out there
Good.
on what was supposed to be a rainy day.
Yeah.
All week long, it was going to rain that day. I told some people that if it was a sunny day, that I would go there, set up a tent for the CSP,
Oh.
like I normally do.
Yeah.
I've been doing for years. But I looked right up till the afternoon of the day before,
Yeah.
on Sunday. I checked the weather again.
Yeah.
90% chance of rain.
Yeah.
Now, landlord had told me, the non-believer, that he was going to do a Sundance.
And he got it.
I wake up in the morning, clear skies, beautiful sunny day. I'm like, my first thought was, wow, a great Halloween for the kids. My second thought was,
Yeah.
oh, and for the people that are, we're going to Thornton Park, because they had posted that they were going to go there, rain or shine. I'd seen that, several days before.
Yeah.
So, I posted a great day for a Halloween event at Thornton Park, and it really was.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah.
There you go.
What else was I going to tell you?
I don't know.
Another successful event anyway. There was no enforcement of any
So
sort.
next
There's a
one
number
will
of
be
people that came
420.
through. Well, Miss Medibles, she says that, they used to, back in the day before legalization and the clampdowns, I guess, have their markets there every Saturday right through the winter. I know, Roofer Dave did that.
But didn't
So she says she's going to continue to do it.
Oh, didn't some guy just
Some guy did just get, Johnny got
kicked out, right?
kicked out, busted,
BC.
charged. He's
Or
left
Vancouver
the
City.
province now.
I got the province now.
Left the province.
Wow, eh?
That's really too bad, because that guy did a lot of good work. He was providing a low-cost cannabis at the SkyTrain station at Thornton Park there.
Yeah.
Pretty much every day he was there with a few other people, but they targeted him bad. Well, he used to put up signs that weren't very nice to the VPD. He wasn't very happy with the enforcement of things.
Okay.
And I don't know why he thought that
So
would
he's
help
poking
him.
the bear.
Oh, did he ever poke the bear?
He was
Did he
poking the
ever?
bear, was he?
Oh man, great big huge
Yeah,
signs.
sometimes when you poke the bear.
Yeah, I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish by that.
I don't know.
Other than he was angry, right?
Yeah,
Because they
he was
would come and
angry
steal
because-
his stuff and tell him he couldn't do what he was doing, even though when you're doing something like that all day long, all the people tell you, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm really glad you're here. Oh man, I'm so happy that you've got this. Oh man, what a great price. Oh, thank you so much. And all the stuff that we hear all day long here from the actual people of Canada is that we're doing great work and we should continue and thank you very much. People say don't stop to us all the time. I'm sure that people said don't stop to Johnny all the
Yeah.
time as well.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stop. When day
It's
after
hard
day
when you know.
you're realizing the help that you're providing for people, it's really hard to stop doing that. It gets infectious.
They literally got to put you in jail before you
And that's what they've done.
Yeah.
They targeted him so hard.
Yeah.
They continued to arrest him, to follow him around, to keep him under surveillance. They seized vehicles. They seized property. They continually robbed him of the money and the product that he would have. And then I guess they had 14 charges after the last couple of years here. And then this last one was just too much. And so he was I'm done with this place. He's gone. He's out of here. And that's really too bad. And yeah, in the face of that, Miss Medibles and some of these other brave people
taking up the fight.
are going to continue to go there at least every Saturday. And that's good. I mean, it's not a daily thing that was going on there, but they're going to do it every Saturday. And she doesn't care, rain or shine. These are people, a lot of them from Eastern Canada. They're not wusses like guys like me. Maybe it's just that I'm old. I don't know. I mean, I used to brave the rain and cold, but my fingers freeze right up. They get so numb, and they're gonna fall right off. I mean, I did that just standing in the park. For the hour and a half that I was there, both of my hands, my fingers were just completely white and numb.
Wow.
I don't handle cold anymore very well. I guess it's a circulation issue.
These fingers, they get colder. So I'm constantly going like this.
Yeah, it sucks in the wintertime.
Even when I'm driving, isn't that nice warm spot underneath here?
And you've obviously experienced what happens when you try to warm them up too fast.
Yeah.
That's not fun
No,
either.
it's not fun. No.
So you get the steady warming back up stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not much else. I want to thank Miss D for the donations. I want to thank everybody for the donations as well.
Yeah.
Mad Hatter's in the house.
Got a nice
Did you want to
finish last week?
We could finish talking a little bit if you want.
Sure.
It's not scheduled, and I didn't say you were going to be here. I said we were going to do it on a different show.
I wasn't coming down for that.
No, I didn't think you would.
I
Just
chopped
crashing
down
the show, are you?
I chopped down a tree and hung it for a week.
There are people that come here because they know I'm doing a show and they just want me to put them on air.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's happen.
Yeah.
But,
I could see that actually. I can see that.
All right, we'll see you next week, sir.
Like this guy here.
Yeah, I'm always
I was
here.
gonna say.
Yeah.
He just comes and hangs around every week. Probably
Probably
because it works.
A tripod, and all this stuff.
He might stop coming if I didn't put him on, but But
No,
now,
behind the cameras,
and now he's worked himself into a position where if I stop having him on, he'll stop doing the show. They get in there a little bit, and then they dig in a little farther, and then pretty soon they got complete control. That's how that works.
I love you, Neil.
You too.
My friend.
Thank you so much. You're not going too far because I got all your equipment here still.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you later.
As we talked about, Glenn has been helping with the production of the show since Neil went to India to learn how to
Be a yoga
slow his
master.
brain down better.
Always the
Hard to
feeling.
do in the city, especially with a phone. So he got rid of his phone. He's headed into the mountains of someplace in India. So last week we had a guest on the show, and I guess he's just rolling right in here. So,
rolling in.
I'm not following my production cues at all. so maybe I won't
Well, you
even
said I was here already, though.
Well, I know, but I was still going to give you somewhat of an introduction.
Well, that's nice of you.
Yeah, but you're here now, and still as a form of introduction, the Mad Hatter has been a great donator to our program for a long time, along with a lot of other people that really have kept this thing going. And what we were talking about on the show last week, before we were so rudely interrupted by Facebook, is the troubles that have happened as a result of prohibition, as a result of trying to respond to a marketplace that is in need of high-dose edibles, and having your house raided, your fish killed by corrupt police forces that decide to really put the screws to people if they really want to. Innocent until proven guilty apparently doesn't apply at all. The police believe that they have not only the power but the obligation to hurt people that are just in the process of being discovered, perhaps doing something illegal. In your case, of course, there was no victims, you never hurt anybody, but they decided that shutting off your power was the right thing to do because you had a little grow tent that you had there, and so you had exotic fish, a whole bunch of them. You lost up to close to 100 of them.
Yeah, 95 of them.
They took your truck, they took your cell phones, they wouldn't answer their phones for months. I mean, we went through all this in the show, that there was just a lot of consequences that happened as a result of that unjustified raid on your personal castle there, prompted by apparently, according to the disclosure, a report that some child in the neighborhood got some cannabis edible from you, and that was the justification for them coming in. Whereas, for one thing, as you pointed out so clearly, as an edible maker, you would never ever do that and expose yourself. But even more than that, you didn't give out anything that Halloween. You had your own Halloween going on in the backyard.
We did, actually. My daughter was like, we just want to have a fire in the backyard, so we put a bowl of bags of chips out at the end
Not
of the
infused,
walkway.
probably.
No, obviously not. See, that's the point. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. They're like, I was like, yeah, I own a pretty thriving edibles company, so I'm going to give it away to kids at my own house on Halloween.
Just
Like,
risk,
that just doesn't make that.
well,
That's not good.
I can see why a person would risk all of that. I mean, the joy of seeing these young people rolling around in your
And
front
not
yard.
even being able to see them because it's going to be,
It's going to be
just in the bag.
45 minutes later. So just the joy of the thought of these young people rolling around in somebody's front yard wondering what the hell hit them. For that, you're going to risk your liberty and your possessions and your company. Yeah, right, for sure.
Rolling.
A rolling paper.
Yeah.
We got these beautiful top shelf rolling papers.
Wonderful.
Also donators to the program. I love promoting people to donate to us. I don't mind promoting anybody that's got a good product. I really like these papers. If they hadn't donated, I would still be saying these are kind of the papers that I've migrated to.
Yeah,
I like Canadian lumber papers too. They're really good. They also did donate to us a couple of times, a fabulous donation, and I'm looking to purchase off of them now because I like those papers too, and many other people do as well. But right now, the top shelf seems to be the ones on the top shelf here.
And Canada's Cannabis Center.
Canada's Cannabis Center is a good place to find exotic things that you might like.
Donator.
And a good donator to the program as well. There's such a good list of people that have done that.
Yeah.
Boy, I should really put together a list one day, try to do that.
Maybe a little list that we can have hanging on the wall. People can see it all the
some of
time.
them, there's Canadian Lumber,
Yeah.
and there's CannaMatch, a donator to us, and there's other people that donate. The candy bar, that's Miss D there. I did have a Mad Hatter one up there, but I guess I don't now because we moved a bunch of
We're gonna
stuff.
have to bring you some stickers and stuff.
Stickers and stuff work
Yeah.
good. I do, like I say, I like to promote to people if their products are good, and I especially like to promote people that donate to the program. Where did we first meet? Was it at 420?
No, a BC Bud Day.
BC Bud Day.
Yeah, and then
And you came at the end of it, and you gave me a big bag of your products, and I think that was the start.
that wasn't the first day.
That wasn't
We
the first
actually, me and Vanessa, we went home after talking to you guys and finding out about the program. It was about 2 weeks later, and we called you.
Ah,
And I just kind of assumed, because it was way on the other side of the Lower Mainland, that it was going to be some lackey or something coming to pick up product.
I remember.
No,
going
and you
there.
showed up, and you were a minute early.
Was I?
And I was like, wow. I was like, that's pretty good. And we were actually like, we weren't doing well with the company at that point. We had bought an infusion tester that ended up being junk, and our products had like a third of the teach that were supposed to be in it. So I was chasing people down. It was the first couple months, and we were pretty down on it. And then I remember we sat there in that garage for a good couple hours.
We had a nice chat. I remember that.
Hell yeah. And you definitely put the fire back under us.
Well, that's good. I'm not sure I was trying to do that, but
I've told-
happy anytime that happens.
You know, I've told you before, like,
Yeah.
it definitely, it probably saved Mad Hatter.
Right.
You know?
Well,
So,
I'm glad that happened because people love your products. You know, we've been helping people get at them because of your donations and stuff for quite a while, and they love them. It's obviously a very good product. You know, I had a comment earlier by somebody who said they didn't like the taste, but then I had another comment from someone else that they liked that it tasted like that because it was kind of like you're getting some medicine. You can taste
to
it.
me, I find, like, if I eat an edible and I can't taste it at all, the doubt is in my mind a
Right.
little bit. And,
So you,
I,
get
you know, most...
you could end up with nocebo.
right? And I find, like, I don't really get high off distillate edibles.
Right.
You know, as much as it's colorless and tasteless, I mean, I see the selling point, but at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that don't get high from distillate edibles. Or
Yeah,
they
I
eat,
haven't gone that way myself. I've been offered quite a bit, and I've usually turned it down, and because of comments like yours with respect to that.
yeah, but
Stick with what works.
I make the
Hold
shatter
still.
that goes into them as
And,
well.
I, and
so-
I, I don't know if we're right or wrong about this. You know, science would probably be able to tell if
Right.
we analyze things. You know, like I say, it could be nocebo. right? Like if you don't have the taste or the odor
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on, maybe that doubt is enough to diffuse the actual good that could be doing. Who knows these things? But because of that, like I say, I've kind of steered away from that and stayed with the more traditional THC products.
That's from the garden.
Yeah, you do
And-
that one yourself.
Yeah,
right?
and completely organic as well.
A little bit of fish water and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Want my fish water.
Yeah, and you know what I think the worst part about that is that, just 2 weeks before the raid, my daughter was having problems with a sibling at her mom's house, and cops had to be involved, and I told her, I'm like, you know what? If you can talk to these people, you can trust them. And then she comes back the next week, and all 32 of her fish are dead. And it was funny. I was actually on the phone with somebody doing an article on us, and she grabbed the phone and she started bawling her eyes out to the sky. I felt so bad, but she looked at me and she's like, "Why would they do this?" And it was tough.
So I used
She's
to
like,
work-
she looked at me and she's like, "I thought you said we were supposed to trust them."
I worked most of my life as a restoration expert before.
Yeah, garbage man
A
for
couple
me.
decades ago, I had to stop doing that to do this. And as a restoration person working primarily for insurance companies, I dealt with a lot of people who had break-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And on many occasions, not even just several, I mean, I did that work for a lot of years, but on many occasions, I would have homeowners report to me that the police would make the comment that, if you catch these people, make sure that before you call us, they try to escape and fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
Giving these angry homeowners who'd had their homes invaded by burglars or whatever,
Yeah.
giving them the go-ahead to hurt the people if they catch them. Now that may well be justified. You catch somebody in your house,
Yeah.
got your wife's jewelry in one hand and a crowbar in the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you'd be justified in thinking that person was probably guilty, and maybe that, and the cops' point of view is that the courts aren't going to do anything to these people.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door.
Yeah.
We arrest them. We know that they did bad things. They're released,
on the wrist.
shortly thereafter, and they get nothing. So therefore, as a homeowner, go ahead, some old, vigilante, justice there, and make sure these people don't come out of it completely unscathed. That's not cool,
No.
but it's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But that translates into what's going on with most police work, which is interdicting drug issues. That's the thing that most police in Canada do. That's the thing. The number one reason charges are laid. It's the biggest crime in Canada. It's been the biggest crime in Canada for a long time.
Yeah.
Our police are involved in trying to stop the illegal drug trade, and that is primarily cannabis. But that attitude extends to that. So now here they are in a person's house who's growing some plants. Who knows what the circumstances are for that?
Mm-hmm.
We've got court rulings for 30 years that are telling us that the medical patients deserve to have access, and the government's been wrong numerous times and had to go back and try to fix it. And here they are again. The aspects of the ACNPR now struck down by the courts, and more to come on that as well.
The funny thing is,
So who
that-
knows about this garden these people are growing there? Who knows
Right.
who these people are and why they're growing that garden? You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and if there was ever a time when that needs to apply, it's to do with people growing plants.
Well, I think the funny part is that, just because of a wrong address made it so taboo. I mean, Vanessa's got a license for 144 to grow.
Right?
And I had 10 plants in 8 plants actually in a 5x10 tent. And they cut my power off in 4 days. 4 days. And when they did the search, they opened up every door and window before they left, so all the heat would go out. They left my short-haired 3-year-old rescue dog shivering and fucking terrified, and then it was all cuddles for the rest of the weekend. It was fucking cold. And you know what? They made me look so bad. Like, even one of the neighbors came over when we were moving out on New Year's Eve because he had couple of drinks in him, and he decided to tell us that the cops went up and down our street telling people that they were doing a search and this and that, there was drugs. They made us out to be like fentanyl dealers or something like that. You know, like when they cut off my power, I was trying to figure out how to save the fish. I talked to every one of those neighbors 3-4 times a week when we're outside doing yard work and stuff. Everything's always great. You think I could get an extension cord to save my fish? Not a fucking chance.
I could bring in a string of people that have grown cannabis, that have had experiences with the authorities, where they come in like as if you're a criminal and harm you in so many ways where they were completely legal.
Yeah.
They didn't care about the paperwork.
They wouldn't let her get her paperwork at all. She said, you know, I've got a license, my production license is 144 plants, but the address is in THC Show. She said, but even just my possession license, she's been a medical user since 2007. She was on ground floor, you know? And they wouldn't let her they wouldn't even let her go upstairs to go get her license. And they proceeded to steal it. It's a good thing that she's smart enough to keep copies. You know?
No, they've heard a lot of people with these prohibitions. The disrespect for police is another big one. You know, the cops shouldn't really be allies of prohibition, but they're told to do that, and that's what they're paid to do. And if they're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. So there was a pretty tight peer pressure control over the police forces in Canada, but probably around the world about all these things, where you know it's not right. You know you've got that 18-year-old kid in the back of your car who's now going to get a criminal record, and all he did was party with some of his friends. He was having a great time standing there, you know, puffing on a little bit of smoke, you know, beside people who were killing themselves with tobacco in many cases. But those people aren't in the back of the police car. It's this young kid that had the joint, and the cops know it's wrong, but they can't say nothing. You know, they can't say anything. They can't speak up.
It's a cash grab.
You know, but it hurts them so bad. Yeah, it's a cash cow, 100%.
Because it's like after doing some research, especially with Briggs' help, I mean, found out just how bad the proceeds of crime law has turned out to be.
It's morphed into this perversion of what it was intended to do originally.
They get to just take whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, if I borrowed your car, I dealed some pot to somebody, they could take your car and you wouldn't have any recourse at all.
That's right. And you don't go before a judge.
No.
It's not, there's no or proper justice in any of that. It's all just become this money grab by an out-of-control government department that makes a whole scad worth of money, and I'm sure they get enough money there that they can grease the palms of anybody that would complain a little bit. It needs to be taken down. It needs to be stopped, for sure. But the overall, and there again, disrespect for governments, disrespect for police, disrespect for laws. This whole attempt to prohibit and now over-regulate this plant that so many people want is bringing our entire justice system into disrepute. And that is a dangerous, dangerous thing. When the people don't trust the government, where they think the cops are bad and corrupt. This has all gone real sideways, way too far. Hopefully we can sort some of this out. Maybe this case that we're into right now, where the prosecution offers us a deal, and I'm like, I'm not taking no deal. I thought they were going to resolve this, and I've stated very clearly, any resolution is going to involve no shaming of me. I'm not pleading guilty to anything. I'm okay if you don't build me a statue and name a road after me for all that we've done here, but I'm not about to be shamed by it, and I'm not about to plead being guilty of doing anything except being a good person and doing the right thing as it came up in my life. And I won't take any consequences. Why would there be consequences for what? And there will be no conditions on me other than to follow reasonable regulations. And if these regulations, if we could restructure how regulations are imposed here, that would be great. Because right now, the government, apparently, they can just put whatever regulations they want on something. And by regulations, I mean restrictions. And by restrictions, I mean that they decide that you can only get it from them at super high prices, and anything else they're going to use other people's tax dollars to come after you and make it really, really tough on you for having done that.
Just think of all the LPs that, have said, we wish we could give you product. But, it's coming back to us and we have to destroy it. Yeah. So they'd rather it be destroyed after it's went through the government stringent testing policy.
Yes, this is supposed to be
You know what I mean?
safe
So it
cannabis.
goes, they just have too much, so now they've got to destroy it.
So
But
we're
now-
here
but-
using
but-
what they deem to be not safe because it's not legal, and they've got a whole bunch that's legal or safe,
safe, yeah.
and they won't allow us to use it. They're going to destroy it instead and let people die, or just and that is the bottom line. There's no other real thing than that. They're letting people die.
It's atrocious.
There's no words. There's so many words, and all of them put together probably isn't even enough to describe how bad this is. And when you're right here on the front lines where we are, where we're actually dealing with the people, we're seeing the ones that need help, helping those that we can as best we can, and witnessing this corrupt government that is trying to stop us from doing this of all things. It is really, really. It's hard on your heart. It's hard. It's hard on your brain. It's hard on your being to be involved in what we're involved with here. And it sure doesn't need to be that way at all. This could be a very joyous thing that's going on here, where finally we're vindicated for our beliefs that we're right after all, and that's being proven out. We got legalization. You can walk into a store and buy cannabis. Holy smokes, you're not going to get arrested. For all these years, it was such a horrible thing to do. Well, apparently, it's not so horrible anymore, except that they're not apologizing for not allowing you to do that before, and they're not, they're not rectifying it by making it. They instead of now over-regulating cannabis because of their crimes against the cannabis community and this society here, they should be severely under-regulating cannabis, just as sort of like a slingshot effect,
Yeah.
That's what should happen.
Yeah.
But instead, we've got corrupt governments that never wanted to give us legalization in the first place, had to do it reluctantly because the science was continuing to show there's no justification for criminal records for people for having a simple plant, my goodness, and their only intention is to feel good, and there's never a victim involved. So they couldn't hang on to that forever. We were, exposing all of that. So their version of legalization is, well, we'll just wipe out all those people that we hate. We'll put them all out of business. We'll take over the business. We'll maintain prohibition pricing on things and use their money to enforce that on the rest of Canada.
Yeah.
Wow! Like, isn't this the biggest story? I mean, it boggles my mind that the mainstream media isn't really grasping onto that. Oh, yeah, right, they're controlled by the same people that the government works for.
$600 million a year, right?
So, mainstream media doesn't really want to tell this story. Some of them do. Some, especially some on the bottom levels, the reporters and stuff are interested in it.
They would love to do it.
But it's hard to get past the editor's desk because the real agenda of the mainstream media is to support those parasites that have, really taken us all over. As we
should never be government funded. Like
It's insane.
That's a conflict of interest waiting to happen.
A government that proves itself to be wrong time and time again, and they get to control the media.
Yeah. I find myself looking for other sources of media.
Yeah, of course. But I find myself wishing for a different form of Canada.
Oh.
A Canada based on the values of actual Canadians that are all about reason and logic and politeness and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And yet here we are governed by people that are operating for parasites that just want to exploit us for everything that they can. And the best example of that is look what they've done with legalization of cannabis. Holy shit, you can have it, but it's going to be really even way more expensive than it was, and people were going to jail for having it.
And the quality's not going to be good for 6 or 7 years.
It's suspect for sure.
Yeah.
I know they're going to come up with better quality cannabis for the stores because that's the business model. Of course they are. Have a bad product to begin with, take criticism for that, and then come up with the better product. So they're going to have craft growers growing better cannabis.
That's exactly it. I figured once legalization came, they were going to have to get over that hump. But 5 years in, you're going to see some really, really nice product.
It's going to be $25 a gram.
Oh, for sure it is. Absolutely.
But and that's not a joke. That's the truth. I mean that's what they're doing. They're going, okay, well, you guys have called for a better quality of cannabis, so we're introducing that, and at at these prices, which aren't unreasonable when you consider what you get for $10 a gram, getting this for $20 a gram is, boy, that's good because this is so much better than that. Yeah, once you're crap to begin with, and and $20 a gram, how much is that? Oh, $10,000 a pound, you say? $10,000 a pound. We got greenhouses growing shit all over the place. Just based on that. If the government all of a sudden released all restrictions on growing cannabis,
we'd all be rich.
What farmer would grow anything but cannabis? What greenhouse would have anything growing in it other than cannabis? Until the market was so saturated, until the prices kept coming down and undercutting each other and all the rest of it, until the marketplace determined what the price, and then eventually you would have some farmers devoting some of their land to strawberries because people love strawberries, and they haven't had any strawberries for a few years since all the farmers started growing weed.
Yeah.
And eventually they're going to be crying for strawberries to the point where the growers realize they can get a couple $100 for a pound of strawberries. So, all right, here we go. We'll devote some of our land to strawberries. But realistically, that is what is going on here. If you look at it and go, well, what other crop? Every farmer would love to get a license that didn't cost $300,000 to grow cannabis. You know, just leave it up to farmer. You get to grow what you want. The marketplace needs a whole bunch of things. Some people like strawberries, some people like radishes. You know, the marketplace wants a whole bunch of different things. You get to choose which one to grow, and here's how much you make on the growing of any of these particular things. Well, at this point in time, because of, you know, the way that this has all happened, every single farmer would then devote every inch of their land to maximizing their yields for cannabis until the marketplace settled that down. And for a while, we'd be importing it or exporting it rather to other places around the world. We'd be the cannabis.
Like we haven't already, though.
We'd be the cannabis capital of the entire world because every farmer in Canada, that's all they're growing.
Right.
We do have to import our vegetables and fruits from other places, but but for now, but that's what would happen. And why would that happen? Because that's the artificial structure that's been imposed on all of this by a corrupt government that wants to put in these policies that will protect the rich and don't give a shit about the poor, and take advantage of a marketplace that's been used to paying around $10 a gram for their weed for years. So,
Yeah.
you know, they've got people really bamboozled. That you know, legalization is here, nothing to fight for. This is all great. We can walk into a store and buy it. You're paying $4,500 for a single pound of that stuff at those prices. And your cousin, you know, who lived 3 blocks away and was providing you, well, he's sitting in jail now because they had to increase enforcement to make sure that, you know, because that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to crack down, if these licensed producers are successful in their lobbying of the federal government to get the federal government to crack down, it doesn't mean just more police officers catching more people. It means more penalties to deter people from doing it. So the jail times get to be increased and all the rest of it. And like I say, have a look at Mexico. See what happened there when they tried as hard as they could to have the government enforce out the cartels, and see who won, and recognize that you know, this is an unwinnable war. You cannot enforce your way out of people getting access to cannabis, a plant that grows easily in basements, in underground dungeons, in boats, and, you know, wherever, you know, in kitchen cabinets that look completely like kitchen cabinets, even when you open them, but actually there's a false thing there. People will figure out how to grow weed, no matter what the government does. And the government's only way to try to keep that weed out of the marketplace is to really have harsh penalties on people, to make everybody so scared that they won't do it, to get people turning in their neighbors for fear that they're going to be punished harshly for not doing that. And surveillance everywhere, and you know, more and more cops. This is where it leads. There's no other way for that to go. If you think you can enforce your way out of this, it starts with increasing the number of cops, increasing the penalties that are all about there, increasing the surveillance, increasing the fear amongst the population. That's the way you try to do that. And with a plant that people have been figuring out how to grow clandestinely for 100 years now in Canada, trust me, they won't win. You know they won't win. And you know it's going to be a huge expenditure of money, and many people are going to have their lives ruined in the process, and they don't care, because it's not their money that they're using to fight that war. It's not their people who are dying in the process of doing that. They don't care. They want it. That is the world that they thrive on. That's the world that they make all their money with. That's how they control us, is to have issues like this where they can increase surveillance, increase penalties, increase police, scare the fuck out of everybody. And this is what they're using to do that, is this plant that is the most miracle best plant on the planet. It is just the most absurd thing that I can imagine. That this plant, of all the plants that, you know, that could or could not be dangerous, is the one that they're using as the cloak for them to be able to bring in all of these controls and take all of this tax dollars to protect their own private industries of patentable products. This is a story that needs to be told, and I don't know when the mainstream media will do it or if, but we're just going to keep on trying to tell it here. We're doing it, we're trying it. You know, every week I come on and yap about it and scream about it and get upset about it. I don't know how much of a difference it can make. Maybe it is. I don't know, but you got to try something. That's how I feel about it.
So that means share the video.
Share the video. Let people know, or figure out a way to put it into words that is more crystal clear about our governments, our evil, corrupt bastards that are raping us and stealing all that should be ours and making us live in poverty, corruption, and all of this drug addiction and stuff that's going on in our world, so that they can all profit on being able to control us like this. Put it into better words than I just did. I ramble on about it. There's got to be a very concise way to get a meme. We need a meme. We need something
that's
that just
too much in one meme.
States it. I know there's so much there.
It would need like a wall.
Maybe we need 10 memes. I don't know. Maybe memes are passé now. Maybe that's past generation. There's a new generation coming out. They don't like memes. I don't know. But we need something.
I fuck with memes.
Whatever you can think of, whatever might work. Wordsmiths, please, everybody, construct a letter. And by the way, it's ludicrous as can be to me that the prosecution, the Crown, is after now this amount of time still deciding that they should be punishing us and stopping us. Please, if you feel strongly about that, contact them. Contact the Federal Crown, Canadian Federal Crown, about the case to do with the CSP, and voice your concerns. Time may be of the essence.
More voices.
The more voices, the more people. Because most guys that went out and then did a crime spree of killing people usually don't get a whole lot of Canadians writing in letters to support them. But what we're doing is completely the opposite, and we do need support, and it is something that
in 2022, I never thought I'd be looking at a 2.5-year jail sentence for a raid that happened 2 years ago for pot.
Crazy. Legalization.
Right?
Yeah.
Actually, the funny part is that I used that as a hashtag right after the raid. It was something like, "Is this your version of legalization?" Or does this look like legalization?
So now they've struck down these sections of the ACNPR.
14 years. That's their big.
So
number.
from here on in, those laws are in no force in effect. Well, doesn't that also mean that they were never of any force in effect? Doesn't that also mean that they were wrong then? If they're wrong now, they were wrong then.
Mm-hmm.
So, anybody that got convicted based on those sections of the ACNPR or the other versions of it, this is all just the original MMAR that has been, transposed into these different names.
Yeah.
The Cannabis Act is nothing more than the MMAR. A few little tweaks, more enforcement, more money for enforcement, even stricter, more ridiculous rules, but that's all they're doing here. And yet the courts, time after time after time, are saying that this is against our charter rights, this is against our freedoms. And if it's against it, then wasn't it always against it? When is this going to stop? And when are they going to say that they're sorry? And when is there going to be reparations? And when are people going to have their criminal records actually disappear? Because for me to have a criminal record for possessing a plant, I deserve a badge for that.
It's crazy
for me to have a criminal record because I was an activist and I went to the art gallery and decided to blatantly sell cannabis there to break the laws.
You can't be in the legalization framework.
In the way it is right now.
Because of the fact that plant.
Yeah. But that's the way it is now.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
And I'm saying the way it should be is I deserve some sort of a medal.
I agree.
I've been vindicated. I believe I've been vindicated time and time again through these court decisions, through the media releases, through the science that comes out about it. Every step of the way, I'm more and more vindicated. I've been right all along.
Yeah.
I wish my mom had her faculties so that we could really discuss these things now as two intelligent people. Because she's been with me through that first part of the journey, but now she doesn't have her faculties to be able to discuss that. But hey, Mom, 65 years old, still functioning pretty good. And I was right about just about everything here. In fact, I can't think of anything that I was wrong about, although I'm sure I've been wrong about some things. Probably wrong about that. But who knows? But I do know that I am a man that was born with parents that had some respect for laws and a desire to be ethical, and we had ethical debates all through my life. And I just always wanted to do the right thing. That's who I am. And I think most people are like that. I believe that everybody is doing what they think is the right thing moment by moment. Even the bank robber, even the burglar in your house, whoever it is, for whatever reason, that they've concocted,
It's
be
right in
it, be
their
it
mind.
crazy or whatever. In their mind, they believe they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That's who I am. I've just tried to do the right thing every step of the way here as best I could. Been wrong about the way of doing things. Been wrong about lots of things. I'm human. I'm a kind of a bumbling professor sometimes. I'm wrong about where I left something because I can't find it, and there it is right in front of my face. Good thing it didn't have teeth.
Story of my life.
So, we try to overcome our shortcomings here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I believe I've been vindicated. I believe it's time for long overdue time.
Yeah.
For these public servants to make a public apology properly, and then to come back with whatever minimal regulations are necessary, and to never ever again to put into some sort of stone thing that they can never ever do something like this again. Decide that some plant is so evil that a free human being that goes and picks one off the side of the road and is now a criminal of some sort. I mean, roses have thorns on them, way more dangerous than cannabis.
But I mean, look, that's like even when the hurricane on the East Coast.
Hurricane Fiona.
Yeah. So they had crustaceans and fish up on shore.
Half a mile in.
Or the lobsters, and they're like, they knew that they were going to die because there was no water. But they're still telling the people not to eat them.
Right.
And these are the people that have no power, they've got nothing right then.
And you can't grab a lobster.
And then they're just like, just remember, that lobster that looks really good in your driveway that washed up, and you can't eat that. It's going to die, but you can't eat that.
You can't eat it. Was there any logical reason given for it?
Not at all.
Not that it had started to rot and maybe people were going to get botulism or some crazy thing?
Not at all. It's
just
about as fresh as you can get it. Waves came in, you could catch the thing in your hand.
So were they afraid of people going out where waves might come in again?
No, they're just like, that's fine money right there.
Yeah, wow.
And they say it as soon as it happens, and then they go out and they look for those people. That's just like that's the way our government is.
We are very corrupt here. Very corrupt.
It's all about money.
All about money.
Because you know that those aren't going to be real charges. They're going to be a $500 fine, or $1,000 fine, or $2,000 fine.
Maybe that's.
But imagine
that's the meme. Maybe that's the meme. It's all about money. It's all about money. So.
Short and sweet. I like it.
6 people die every day. Government does nothing. It's all about money.
I like it.
And a whole bunch of ones like that.
I mean, I don't like it, but I like it.
But maybe that's how you do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, very good. Well, where do we go from here?
Cigarette.
In other words, you said all you want to say?
Yeah, I think so.
That's good. I think I've exhausted my questions for you.
Every time I come here,
I guess I always want to ask, you've experienced all this. It's been quite a bumpy road because of Prohibition. You're going to continue or are you going to go away?
No, I'm here to stay.
So it didn't make you so scared you're going to stop. It didn't make you feel so guilty you're going to stop. Instead, it probably
drives me.
Drives you at this point. Me. Same as so many other people.
Especially now, like even just like like you said earlier, I've been giving you product for the CSP for a bit now, and I don't know, a couple of years now anyway. And but I just I've never been that guy down the front line, so it's kind of cool that I've been down here a little bit lately, just getting to interact with people and realizing just how many demographics there are around here that use the service.
I wish that our other donators, some of them who really don't ever get to come down here, some of them are very keenly aware of what we're doing and how much good their products are doing here. But I would like them all to be able to really get the experience of recognizing how many people come back and go, thank you so much, this helped me so much.
You got to stay for a day at least. And that's not something that I've done up until recently. And even just when you got raided there, the next day, you're early in the morning with a big box, and me and you took out the canopy outside, and I stuck around for 2 or 3 hours, and I was like, it was just crazy to see, even the suit and tie. I was like, hey, where's the RV? And
it's a very surreal thing.
And I just kind of sat back and observed the whole thing, and I'm really, really impressed that there's just that many people that it's helping.
It's so surreal. We have all of this support. There's nobody that is against what we're doing here or has anything bad to say about us. Mm-hmm. Everybody really supports us, and they all say good things about us. They've given us letters, and they tell us verbally. So that includes, the local politicians, the city councilors that support us, even the BPD people that support us. Obviously, not the upper brass that decided to have us arrested to do their job, but those people on the street here, those BPD people, they all know what we're doing here. They all give me a tip of their hat and keep going and we support you. It's the people that are 3,000 miles away in Ottawa who are making all these decisions about what happens in our lives here and our ability to help these people, and they have no clue other than the clue that they have that we're going to interfere with the bottom line profit. It's all about money.
It's all about money.
And they're 3,000 miles away, and they don't seem to want to come here. They don't send anybody here. You would think that because we've been telling them for all this time, we have hundreds of people now that we've saved here. We get people telling us all day long.
And those people don't have a problem telling anybody.
Why wouldn't they send somebody to check that out?
All of those, like, we get a lot of people coming and telling us just how much it's helped.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it would be that many. Like, people are like, you could you could see it in their face. It's like heartfelt, like sincere, and it's rare to see that kind of.
So I asked the people that are there 8 hours a day working out there, what is the frequency of people that come and give you that story about, hey man, I've kicked drugs because of you guys, or I'm trying to get off down, and
more than
a conservative estimate in an 8 hour day, it's 50 to 60 people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was
it's a
really
regular
surprised.
thing. Boom, boom, boom. It's a constant thing at the window there. People are so appreciative for one thing, and I guess I can relate to that. Because as a young person growing up with Prohibition, and weed wasn't that easy to get lots of times, you'd have a meeting in the parking lot, and I'd wait there for 3 hours, and the guy wouldn't show, or it'd be bunk, or whatever. So much of that going on. Anytime anybody was ever like, hey man, you want a free joint?
You want a free joint?
Whoa! Make my day!
You are, Yeah. That's like, I've been here for 14 years now, but coming from Northern Ontario, where it was really, I'd get thrown in a holding cell for a roach back in the day, and then I came here
and then come across the roach in the first place. Had trouble getting the damn thing, and now you're gonna be
right.
You know what it took me to get this, and now you're gonna throw me to jail.
Yeah, and I came to my first 420 here in Vancouver. I seen there was probably like 25,000 people, and I was like, just threw my hands up in the air. I'm like, I am home. These are my people. And you know what? I'm not leaving the coast now.
Yes, there's a whole lot of us, and there's lots of us in those small towns in rural Ontario and other places as well. What I experienced was that many of those people don't even know each other. They all keep to themselves. They don't want anybody else to know. It's the whole code that you have to follow to be able to survive because of the stigma, because of the potential enforcement, and all that stuff. So there's a long way to go yet. Thank you for your assistance in our pursuit of these justices that we're looking for. Couldn't do it without you, and
definitely tried to play a little bit bigger role lately.
Well, thank you. It's been great what you've done so far, and I'm sure you're an inspiration to other people that will do the same. And I love what you said about this doesn't deter you, even though you told us a horror story about the pain and the suffering that happened, and yet you're not deterred. You're driven. Yeah. And that's a message for.
There's people that we can help, and there's people that we can help.
We will not be deterred. We will continue to help these people, and if some corrupt person in group or armed or whatever says no, well, they're going to have to use their arms and do something, because I won't stop just because they're saying no. Right. And maybe they'll try to put me in a cage. We'll see what comes up here in court. That's what they want.
They want me in a cage for 2.5 years right now.
2.5 years. I'm only looking at 6 months. And maybe for me it wouldn't even be a cage; it would be like an ankle bracelet or something.
Yeah.
Usually wear jewelry. Very good.
The worst part about that is that that exact same city where that happened, I was actually a garbage man for almost 10 years. I served that community for almost 10 years. I got laid off in March when COVID hit, and then the wife and I took on the company full time then, and they took our fucking pickup. $30,000 into the financing, all with legit money, garbage man money. She was a hairdresser, right up until that month, and then.
Yeah, we talked about that in the first part of our interview here, and how that all worked out. And it's just, I'm very sorry all that happened. Easy for me to say thank you for continuing on and all the rest of it. I mean, it's real life for you. And but thank you for doing that, and I look forward to
I appreciate it,
more of us standing shoulder to shoulder with the rest of our family as we move forward and finally, maybe eventually, achieve our goals of freedom.
We'll find the right person
for us, and
there'll be a certain person that one of us is going to talk to, and they're going to make it happen.
we will reach critical mass at some point. We will find that one person that breaks the camel's back.
That has the power to break.
That has the power. That has the connection. That comes up with the right meme.
Yeah, right. It's all about the money.
It's all about the memes.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir.
No, thank you for having me.
Carrying on.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the not too distant future. I'm sure we'll have you back on again.
All right.
Okay. Well, so what's it all about then? A quick recap. This is a show that we have been broadcasting over the last 3+ years, and all of it has been dedicated for the most part to following our journey with the Cannabis Substitution Program of a quest for low barrier store access to cannabis. It has taken many twists and turns, but every show I do like to just summarize. I'll try to be brief about what got us here. First, it was the knowledge that cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles had the power to replace the use of the opioids and get people through withdrawal, the very most important thing. Armed with that knowledge and some science that was following that backed all that up, I went to first the Downtown Eastside Advocacy Group, the VANDU, and got their unanimous approval to go to City Council, where I next went and presented the whole idea being make it as easy as possible for people to get access to high-dose edibles. City Council did not want to have anything to do with that at the time. I also did present that idea to the Vancouver Police Board and got a pretty good response there. 2 months of lobbying later to try to get the City Council on board without success, we started the program. And we began giving out care packs of 4 to 6 high-dose edibles and a couple of joints, because the joints help to bridge the gap from the time you take the edible until it gets there. It eases the ride. And we did that for 2.5 years at VANDU. The first year for once a week, every Saturday. The next 1.5 years, we did 2 days a week, Thursdays and Sundays. And at that point, the Vancouver City Council passed a motion to support what we were doing. We had made a big impact on the problem down here. Meeting with the city, an understanding arose where we would find a storefront, and that they would, once we had moved in and started our program inside instead of outside, that they would have city staff assess us and give us a license to do that. So in good faith, we found a storefront, this particular building we're broadcasting from, and we began providing low-cost and no-cost cannabis at that time in a business model that we ended up having to present to Health Canada, because the city wouldn't give us a license until either the province or the federal government did. It turned out that it had to be the federal government, because what we're doing could not conform to the non-medical provincial legalization that's going on. And so we presented an application to the federal government September 16th, 2 years ago, along with an emergency application for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act, so that we could not have to fear getting evicted, so that we would not have to fear getting arrested, and all the other bad things that happen when you're working on the other side of the law. So we tried to get that happening. We were assured by Health Canada and by Patty Haydu, the federal health minister at the time, that they would process that in a timely fashion. We got no emergency exemption. We got a meeting with Health Canada 3 months later, around Christmas time of that year, where they apologized for having taken so long already and assured us that it would be sometime probably in early January that they would have those licenses for us and we would continue our program. So once again, continuing on in good faith, with licenses pending both from the municipal and the federal government, we had to continue our program anyway. We could not step aside and suspend the program while we waited for licenses. We'd already been doing it for years. All these people were relying on us, and in fact, part of our application to Health Canada included getting letters of support from Dr. Professor M.J. Malloy and Professor Zachary Walsh, excuse me, letters that stated very clearly that if we were to stop doing what we were doing, people would be put at risk of death, hundreds of them. So with a moral obligation to continue, with a belief that licenses were pending, we continued the program. Wait and wait and wait. More and more conversations with Health Canada, mostly about them working on it diligently every day for us, and on our side about submitting more and more studies about why what we're doing is working and how well it's working. We did not get what we needed before we had to get out of the store and evicted for not having a municipal license, not being able to stop the program, and now having been run 6 days a week for the last 5.5 months, we moved the next day into an RV, and that's exactly 2 years ago tomorrow that we moved from here into an RV, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait. And bad things happen, you know, working out of an RV. Just the weather was bad, the heat dome, the extreme cold. You know, we're into our third winter out there now in an RV with no electricity, using propane heaters that probably aren't very good for a person's health, and having to endure all these things. And as if the cold isn't bad enough in the wintertime, the summer, it is sweltering hot. And in fact, we had a record heat dome situation summer before this one. Like I say, we've been there for 2 years, where many people died because of the heat that was there. And yet my staff was here every day looking after people, being here for people. During the pandemic, we were considered to be an essential service, along with the liquor stores and the cannabis stores. We were told by Coastal Health that we must continue what we were doing in handing out all of these care packs to the hundreds of people that would line up twice a week to get them. And then we moved into the store. So here we are, working out in the RV, having had it broken into 4 times, having had it vandalized a few times, having had the police raided a couple times. We've now had the CSU here threatening us a few weeks ago. All of these things are happening only because of a derelict federal government who is delinquent in their responsibilities to provide just simply a piece of paper with a signature on it that would allow us to do what we have been doing now for 5.5 years and do it even better, I'm sure. They won't do it. They're not doing it yet. They probably won't. I don't know. We're probably going to have to take them to court and we'll get the courts to force them. And the reason is only money. It's all about money. It's very sad. In any case, that's the state of affairs in Canada. We'll do a brief little trip outside and see what's going on out there.
Don't forget the weather.
The weekly weather report, although we didn't get it in last week because of getting cut off from the show, but it's actually been a very nice sunny day in Vancouver here again. So we had 1 week of reporting rain, and last week we would have reported rain. Oh, no, it wasn't raining last week either.
No, a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit.
I took my plants down 2 weeks
So,
ago.
you know, it's been nice. It is not warm anymore. It's cold, but it's still, you know, dry weather. So we're here right basically in the heart of the downtown east side of Vancouver. We're 1 block away from Wasting and Payne. That's what we call it because that's much more accurate than Hastings and Maine. But, you know, through that alley and on the other side, there's a literal tent city of homeless and poor people that is set up right alongside all of the buildings that are in the neighborhood, so that there's like this second community. There's the people that live in the buildings that in many cases are, you know, fairly well-to-do, not rich people by any means. There's not too many of those in this neighborhood, but there's, you know, that part of mainstream society that has housing, that is able to, you know, take care of themselves to some degree, and they're living in these buildings, and right built as an infrastructure alongside of them is this other community of all of these people that are sprawled out, living in tents with all their personal possessions just strewn around them, and all kinds of issues to do with that community. It's like a separate little mini city within a city all by itself. And we're just 1 block away from that on a fairly quiet, comfortable street where, you know, if people walk that 1 block over, they got a little different vibe. In fact, a lot different vibe. And that's part of how we rescue people from here. So let's go have a look at the RV. 2 years now. I mean, hey, do we get some sort of squatters' rights or something? We've been in the same spot every time. We never move it. In fact, it doesn't start. The rats have eaten some of the cables now. But it's been, you know, maybe I could even build a little structure, you know,
Right.
run some power, you know, get hydro to hook it up,
Wi-Fi?
something like that.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi would be good. So, here we are going back to court.
Coming toward us. Is there anybody knocking on the door today?
This is the back door of the RV. This is where the CSP people come. We have 260 members, a little more, and they come and they get 420 milligrams of their choice every day here. So this is the way they access it. There's actually a secret knock, so don't tell anybody.
Well, We're putting it on public video. Don't tell anybody.
Nobody knows. It's the secret knock. And then when you do that, magically the door will open, and there'll be someone there to say, "Hey, how are you?" If they don't recognize you, they'll want your number. Probably they recognize you.
What's your number?
And so if they got the right number, then you check on the date, right?
Yeah.
And so when they've been at least 4 days since they came last, what do you have for them?
Well, we have tons today, actually. We've got THC capsules, we've got joints, we've got gummies, gorilla
ganja. Another nice donation from them.
We even got some candies for Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
don't be giving those out.
Yeah, those are 100 milligrams.
Oh, they are? Okay, I didn't realize they were infused. If they're infused,
Yeah,
they're all good.
they're all
If
good,
they're
yeah.
just sugar, well, that's not good.
And then we've got the CBD ones as well.
Right?
Right.
And that's from Miss D, I believe. And then we got a bunch of wilderness stuff going on. We've
Nice.
still got a bunch of somewhere in Neverland caramels and stuff. We've got cookies and muffins from John Murray. We got cookies from Michael the Cookie Monster. There's a lot of people that help us out here. It's all what makes it work. And so it's a pretty good selection. How was your day today? I had lots of people telling you they're thankful for what they're getting.
Oh man, we had one of our busiest days. We're on the second page of our CSP pages.
Because we track everything here too. We write everything down. We don't put names associated with it, but we put those numbers that people need to know that they have. And beside that, we put exactly what it is that they took. So we know if they're choosing CBD over THC or indica over sativa or this type of edible over that type of edible, or whether they need suppositories or creams. So we get two things out of that. We get a general overview of what the majority of people are interested in, and we get to individualize for one person what it is that seems to work for them, and we can chart their entire selection of things. And so it's great research. It would just be nice if the federal government would be interested in that and have a look at it and see what it is that we're doing here. Very good. Thank you very much, sir. We'll probably see you on the other side if I know my van.
Oh, the door didn't close.
Well, we got George in the window. How you doing, George?
Doing okay.
How's the window?
It's a window.
Warm in there. It's cozy in there. Well, I'm going in there then. There he is. Another guy looks just like George here. This is the rolling George. That was the window George. Actually, it's the same George. He just multitasks. With quite the ability to do that. And so this is the RV. For those of you who have never seen it before, this is the iconic Ganja Mobile that provides people access to the different things that we have here. And it's become kind of a home away from home for myself, for sure. I think for George too. In fact, probably it's more like the real home, because he's here, I think, more than he's at the other home. And when he's at the other home, he's probably just sleeping most of the time. So, this is life. We've been forced into this life. It's not that bad, but trust me, there's issues here. Working in close quarters and having no proper heat or air conditioning, and it's cramped. It's hard on the back to be moving around in here. And it limits us. That's the other big thing about this. That's the most frustrating thing, is that we know we can help more people than we're helping. We started a waiting list of people once we had to cap the amount of people that we could have access to through the program. And that waiting list got to be 500 people. And that was just so crazy that we stopped taking names. And all because for whatever reason, those people who are charged with doing what needs to be done can't seem to wrap their brain around the fact that this is something that really needs to be supported and encouraged. And that if there was more of our ability, if we were able to operate out of a store instead of an RV and have a couple of different satellite stores, or maybe some pop-ups, or maybe this could be our outreach vehicle, and so much more that could be done to help this public health emergency. And yet here we are, just struggling and stuck here in a form of limbo. And that's what's really frustrating about this, is we could be reaching a lot more people. And there's a lot of people that are now not being served with the same access that these people in this neighborhood have in all these other neighborhoods across Canada. And having said that, I want to give a shout out to the other chapters of the CSP that are operating in Canada. I mentioned off the top of the show that there's a small community in Canada that's wanting to launch a CSP, and they're in communication with me about that. So that's amazing, that's great. But a long time ago, the Victoria group called Solid, because of one of the board members of Vandu here bringing our idea over there, started their own cannabis substitution project, and they've been supplying people with cannabis as an option and a way through withdrawal over there, with the complete support of their city council and the local police force. So, and we have some of that support here now, as I mentioned as well. But yeah, they've been doing fine work in Victoria, and I would say that they must be 5 years now. They're probably just celebrating their 5th year of doing that there. In Halifax, we have the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program going on. Chris Backer and Susan and his other volunteers over there do an amazing job of gathering donators that help them give stuff out, and they've been doing a CSP there for well over 2 years now. And then Mary McCarty, we mentioned her on the show a little earlier in the chat there. Mary was one of our head bakers here in Vancouver for a long time. She gave us a lot of the boost that we needed to be able to coordinate the amount of edibles and stuff. She really did a great job for us. But family reasons took her away, and she went back to London, Ontario, and she started the London, Ontario version of the Cannabis Substitution Program. But then more family matters, and she had to go to Winnipeg, and so that's being taken over by William Hicks. And with the help of his son Isaac and other volunteers that he has there, they're doing a fine job of the Cannabis Substitution Program there. And when I say they're doing a fine job, that means they need more donations, right? All of these programs are only sustained by a continuance of donations. It's one-time donations are great. If that's what you can do, that helps a lot. And a whole bunch of those coming in randomly during the course of a month really help. And those people that consistently donate and make it, them part of the program, that's what really makes it work as well. So please support those other programs. Mary, by the way, is still baking for us, so that's awesome. And and we're working on thinking about how we can get a program working in Winnipeg. Now it's winter time going on, so it's pretty harsh there as well. But more than that, there's such a huge demand there, and this is the sad part, is that the program that Mary tried to start up in Winnipeg really wasn't able to continue without more support, because there was so much demand, and the people are so desperate that there was an element of fear involved in being stampeded for those cannabis goods that she was going to hand out there. And so health issues actually set her back to begin with, but that was a good thing. That was the universe saying, no, you can't do this here yet, not this way. So we'll figure out how to do it in Winnipeg. With a little support from the government, we could really figure these things out, and we're hoping that we get that. So please, in your spare time and whatever time that you can find, think about a meme that would help us. Think about a letter that you could write, a phone call that you could make, an email that you could send, something that you could do to influence the path of our journey towards low barrier access community cannabis stores. And maybe you'll be the camel's backbreaker, or maybe you'll be that last number of critical mass that's required to really make it all work. That's my recommendation. It's a great way to live your life, is to be involved in helping with something that can make the world a better place. It's a great way to get some energy and some juice and some currency of positivity. And if you haven't tried it, try it. I highly recommend it. And if we get enough people trying it and doing it, then maybe we can change this around, and we can stop this horrible level of corruption that is permeating throughout our federal government and other levels of government and agencies that have been involved for too long in the attempt to prohibit access to what is nature's best plant, just to protect some corporate interests. So thank you all for watching. Thanks to Glenn for making it work, and for Pot TV for giving me the platform, and for all that you're going to do in the week to come. I hope that during that week you're kind to yourself and you're kind to the people around you. Regular acts of kindness are what really makes the world a better place. But the most important thing is always, in a very stressful world, no matter what you do, have as much fun as you can. We'll see you next week.